Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Blue Line Blast podcast. Jim Biringer and Matthew Blittner here. Guys, I hope you've been enjoying the Stanley Cup final. It's been great. Before we dive into it, Matthew, what's going on, buddy?
Great to be here every single week, Jim. And, as you mentioned, what a Stanley Cup final. I mean, through 3 games. I know a lot of people are saying on social media, this has the potential. This is already an all-time classic series. I don't think it's hyperbole to agree with that. This really is. Give us 4 more games of this. Have it be a 7-game. I know you and I both picked Vegas in 6. Vegas in 7. Vegas in 7.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Exactly. It don't matter.
Let's go double overtime game 7. This has been an unbelievable series.
Might as well just go straight from the airport then. Just go straight from the arena to the airport. Early morning flights out of Raleigh. Forget it. No, but all seriously, it's been great. First 3 games have been unbelievable. Just the lead changes. No lead is safe. Got 2-0 leads coming back from teams were like 0-108 in these games. And now everybody's coming back. Vegas had a 4-0 lead. Carolina comes back. You got Marner with a 4-point period. First time in a cup final since 1919. A hat trick. A natural hat trick since Peter Forsberg in the same period in 96. Fastest hat trick in passing Maurice Richard. Fastest 3 goals in Stanley Cup final history. 3 goals in 39 seconds. Carolina first team in the playoffs since the miracle on Manchester to come back from 4 goals or more in the third period. It was unbelievable. Goalie change, penalty shot. Game 3 had it all. The first 3 games have had it all. I can't remember a better series than this. Probably, I could go back to maybe 2013, Boston and Chicago. They were pretty good games, but this has been the best start to a series that I can remember against the 2 best teams. What do they do for an encore? Do we get a goalie change? So many questions.
Absolutely, so many questions, and we'll get into that in a second. Jim, I want to point out one other thing. You've mentioned, obviously, and we know that they're the 2 best teams. But if you look at how the scoring has gone, especially in the last 2 games, excluding game 1 for a minute, it wasn't, Vegas scores 1, Carolina scores 1, Vegas. It was Vegas scores 3 in like that, and then Carolina scores 3 like that. Game 2, Carolina scored 3 like that, and it was just complete breakdowns, almost like pond hockey, where things just okay, goal gets scored, great, and then it's like the team almost forgets, oh crap, it's only 1 goal, we can still play defense, and all of a sudden it's just the puck takes a weird bounce, it's another goal, and then 10 seconds later another goal. It's how is this even happening?
Yeah, it's ridiculous how these goals go in because Vegas has dominated stretch. Carolina has dominated stretch. Each team has broken down the other team's system. Freddie Anderson's been a system goalie, and the system gets broken down. Brandon Bussy's coming in. The goalie question, who should start game 4? Do you go back to Anderson even though he hasn't really played great? Is it on him?
You have to.
I think you have to go with Brandon Bussy. He's more athletic, can move side to side. He can improvise in his crease. Look, I know everybody's going to bring up the question of, on the Vegas side, you could say the same thing. Yeah, but you know what? Carter Hart's their guy, and they're not changing. The problem is there's always been a question mark in Carolina about the goaltending in the playoffs. Just because the way Carolina played, Anderson just made a couple saves, timely saves here and there. Now he's just getting bombarded every game, and it just feels like they're going to make a goalie switch. I mean, he had a maintenance day on practice on Monday, but I mean, usually not a good thing when you're taking a maintenance day when you've had, close to 22 days off.
Look, it's one of the things, though, and why I wouldn't say that the Carolina and Vegas situations are equal when it comes to potential goalie swaps. If you look at what Bussy did in relief, stops the Marner penalty shot, and the only goal he gives up is the weird bounce off the backboard in double overtime for the winner. Other than that, he played basically lights out.
And he played close to a full game.
Right.
Two periods and some change.
Right. So he played well in that where Anderson clearly was not playing well. Carter Hart, first of all, they didn't take out Carter Hart.
No.
They stuck with him. And Carter Hart has played better than Anderson's been playing. And at no point did Vegas feel like going back to Hill or anyone. So, like, it's a different situation. Like, Tortorella did not open that door by making an in-game move and then watching the replacement play well. Rod Brind'Amour opens that door by making the in-game move and having the replacement play. If Bussy would have gotten lit up, if 4-0 would have became 7-0, they're going back to Anderson. Like, there's no question.
Right,
but
exactly.
Bussy made it a question. It played well.
It almost feels like it feels like that Buffalo situation when Alex Lyon got like 20 minutes under his belt in the round one. It was just enough for Lindy Ruff to be like, all right, he's played his way into a series in game 2. He's got enough under his belt. I can go to him. It kind of feels like that way. Look, I know you want to stick with one guy. I'm on that train, but I've always said if the goaltender does not play well, you have to make a switch, and I think you're going to have to make the switch here.
And full agreement there. Jim, I want to get your thoughts, though, because I don't know if we're going to be in full agreement on this next topic.
Ooh, okay, yeah, let's go into a little controversial, maybe?
I don't know if it's controversial between you and me. It's certainly controversial in the larger hockey world. Jim, why does the NHL do it? Why does the hockey world do this? The news broke a few hours before we came on the air recording that the Edmonton Oilers are looking to hire, of all people, as the next head coach, Mike Babcock. The same Mike Babcock who wore out who got fired in Toronto after a number of years. Same Mike Babcock who resigned, was forced to resign in Columbus before ever coaching a game, who players across the league, both past and present, have come out and spoken out against him. And Edmonton is literally speaking with the NHL Players Association to see how they would react, if an investigation needs to be done. Jim, if an investigation is in the conversation that it might need to be done, don't you think that you maybe just shouldn't be going after that candidate?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in agreement here. I don't, Mike Babcock, to me, his days of being a head coach in this league are done, long gone. You shouldn't even I understand about second chances, third chances, new leases on life. He hasn't done anything in the playoffs since 2013. Hasn't won a round, let's be honest here. Hasn't won a Stanley Cup since 2008. Yes, he was in the final and lost in 2009. Could have gone back-to-back. Yes, I understand his Olympic resume and all that. The problem is, I don't care who the coach is in Edmonton, whether it's Mike Babcock, Chris Knobloch, Todd McClellan was there, Ken Hitchcock was there, the long litany of coaches. The team still can't play defense. He wore out his welcome with Marner, with Matthews, with that crew many years, and they had to go to Sheldon Keefe. It works for a little until it doesn't work. You have 1 year for Connor McDavid in Edmonton to get this right. Yeah, I know he signed off on it and this and that, but I agree with you. If you have to talk about where the Players Association is in terms of their investigation, I think you may want to go in a different direction as a head coach. And if I remember correctly, and I just looked this up, Darren Dreger said he talked to Mike Babcock a few months ago, and he said he was fine with retirement. So, I mean, he's I don't get why Edmonton has to continue to bring these controversial figures into their organization. You waited for Stan Bowman, which was the wrong hire. And if it doesn't work with Mike Babcock, I think they just need to go find a different coach to make sure that the team can win.
Yeah. First of all, two things on this. One, I cannot believe that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl would have signed off on this move. Now, I know it's been reported that they have, and okay, great. I'm not saying that it's that it's fiction or what. I can't believe that they would sign off on this. They don't have a prior relationship with him where they're they're Babcock guys, where you could almost be like, oh well, they're doing it back for him or something. It makes no sense on why they would even sign off on that, knowing what they know and knowing how they are as leaders of the team. And the other aspect that I want to bring this to, why, and this is, you touched on this a little bit, why does Edmonton, an organization that with all they did in the 80s, with all that they've managed to do in their organization's history, why are they so incompetent? And from a managerial standpoint, that, you know, from a front or from a leadership standpoint, this is an organization that should not be having these type of issues. No. This is an organization that the league views as a crown jewel of its thing, and yet they constantly put their foot in. I don't get it.
No, I don't get it either. I mean, they really should be running, like, bring it to another sport. Like, the Edmonton Oilers should be compared to, like, the Pittsburgh Steelers, where it's just like you do business. And now the Steelers are kind of going down that road because of the Aaron Rodgers situation. But again, I don't like, they brought in Evander Kane. It worked for a bit until it didn't work. Then Corey Perry was fine because that's what they needed. But you waited for Stan Bowman with his checkered past, right? And then you knew what he did as a manager, really didn't do anything towards the end of his Blackhawk days, inheriting Dale Talon's team, really didn't do much to improve that team. Okay, so you bring him in, they make bad moves, poor decision. It's like the ownership in Edmonton, Daryl Katz, is poor decision-making, poor management, similar to James Dolan, similar to what's going on with the Aquilinis in Vancouver. Like, you have to get your decisions right. You have to make better decisions, have better leadership, better own. Stop trying to hotshot to go win. Like, I understand that you need to keep Connor McDavid. I understand that. But you know what? At some point, you have to realize that maybe the guy you got rid of was the guy that wasn't the issue in Edmonton behind the bench. And the real issue is the fact, again, it doesn't matter who the coach has been. Their inability to play team defense, and that's what Babcock preaches, is team defense. If that doesn't work, they're not going anywhere in the playoffs.
Not just team defense, but having actual sound goaltending.
Right, and they don't have the goaltending. They don't have the defense. And I'm not just taking shots at Darnell Nurse or Bouchard or guys like that. The entire team defense is not good enough to win hockey games.
It really isn't. And Jim, it's such in stark contrast to, you know, the LA Kings are hiring Peter Laviolette, and there's always that first year bump with Laviolette coach teams. They do well. You saw it most recently with the Rangers, obviously. They won the President's Trophy, went to the Eastern Conference Final. And then it goes, you know, downhill from there a little bit. Yeah. But it opens up a larger time. At least the Kings are going with someone who has a pretty good reputation around league, pretty good reputation with the players. But it opens up a larger conversation. Why are we going with so many retread coaches? Are there only... I think Emily Kaplan was the one who tweeted out, and I apologize, Emily, if it's not you who tweeted this out. Why are there only 35 candidates for 32 head coaching jobs? There's 32 coaches, and then there's always the same 3 retreads. Why are we not opening up the door to allow other head coaches? Elevate an assistant coach to head coach. Elevate someone from the AHL. Bring in someone from college. Bring in someone from the ECHL. Bring in someone from the KHL. Why are we rotating the same guys constantly? And then it's always the same names that are being brought up. At least I give kudos to the Toronto Maple Leafs for one thing. For as bad as they have been run, at least they're supposedly thinking about Joe Pavelski.
And outside the box name.
The Montreal Canadiens went with Marty St. Louis, who was completely outside the box, and Toronto is trying to copy their longtime rivals by doing something similar. I at least give them credit for it.
Give credit. How about give credit to the Boston Bruins? Go Marco Sturm. I mean, you know, that was a good hire.
Right, but I'm just saying, at least, like, and it worked for Montreal. Who knows if Pavelski gets the job or not in Toronto. But why is it the same names over and over and over again? Jim, you and I are in our 30s, and it feels like it's the same exact coaches in the league now as when we were little kids.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the same coaches. It feels like the same guys. Jay Woodcroft, I feel like deserves another shot. David Carl apparently doesn't want to leave college unless he wants it for the right opportunity. I'll give the Kings credit. They got to compete with the Dodgers out there in LA. So they're trying to win now. Panarin didn't go there to go through a rebuild. They don't want to rebuild. I don't know if they have the roster right now to compete. I don't think they're going to win the President's Trophy next year and get to the Western Conference Final in LA. They need a lot of work, but maybe he can reverse it and start a little slower and then escalate to the point of peak Laviolette and not have peak Laviolette come in the first year and then there be a decline. But I think he'll bring structure to that team. The team needs structure, but they have to play with a little bit more offensive punch. And at least Panarin knows Peter Laviolette from his days with the Rangers. Like Marty St. Louis had a relationship with Jeff Gordon. Joe Pavelski, I don't know if he knows anybody inside the Leafs organization, but it's different. They went back, Lane Lambert went to Seattle and all right. And it's I get it. I get the experience. I know what you need, but I've seen Dan Muse took the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that was supposed to be competing for Gavin McKenna, into the playoffs. I think John Cooper was elevated from inside a Tampa Bay Lightning organization as one of the longest tenure head coaches in the National Hockey League. There's eventually got to go down that route of looking at a guy and sticking with that guy and developing. Ryan Huska is still there. Ryan Warsofsky in San Jose, right? Like the Jeff Blashios of the world. I think you got to go younger at some point because it's a different league and you got to adapt to this league. Laviolette's fine, but it's always the same guys. We need some fresh blood, let's be honest.
Yeah, look, this is Laviolette. I believe it's his 8th team that he's going to be the head coach of. 8!
That's too many.
Okay, and this is not against Laviolette. He's a good guy. He's a good coach.
I know it's a couple Stanley Cup final. He's been there.
8 teams? Seriously?
Yeah.
If Al Arbor were still around, okay, if Scotty Bowman were still coaching, if some of these
Scotty coached a couple teams, more than a couple teams,
but he didn't coach 8.
No, I think he coached 4.
That's half.
That's half. Because he's with Montreal, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and Detroit.
Right. At least these guys would be what the hell is going on here? At some point it's too much. It's too much. How many teams has Tortorella been the head coach of now?
7, 8.
Tampa. He had 2 stints with the Rangers. He was with Columbus,
Flyers, Columbus, Vancouver.
6 teams.
Now Vegas. He's on his 7th team, I think, something like that. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much. Let's get some new blood in there. Let's get some nice. Look what formerly Arizona, Utah did. Andre Tournier come in there, grow with the team. Let's have a coach with the team like Ryan Huska up there in Calgary. I don't know. Look, I'm not a big Mike Babcock guy. Never been a big Mike Babcock guy. Compare him to CM. He's a CM Punk of the NHL. He's just a controversial figure. And look, CM Punk went back to WWE. I guess anything is possible, but let's have some standards here. The players in Columbus didn't like him. There was an investigation, and there was a reason why he had to resign. I think that's all you need to know. But again, teams don't do their true due diligence on a coach. They just think about winning.
And he hasn't even won lately to be able to say, yeah, he's a winner. But
and he lost every time he was the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round.
Yep. Well, Jim, one guy who, maybe he should throw his hat in the ring is our next guest. I don't think he would want to get into head coaching, but next guest and first time appearing on the Blue Line Blast podcast. So new blood, fresh blood here on the show. Former Islander, Ranger, Penguin, Colorado defenseman, Darius Kasparaitis joining the show in just a moment. We'll have Darius on the other side of this non-existent sponsor break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, from the non-existent sponsor break. I'm Matthew Blittner. That's Jim Biringer. No mud today. This is the Blue Line Blast podcast, and we're joined now by former New York Islander, former New York Ranger, as well as Pittsburgh Penguin and Colorado Avalanche defenseman Darius Kasparaitis. Darius, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Darius, we'll ease into it a little bit. It's been a crazy 3 games in the Stanley Cup final between Vegas and Carolina. Just when you think it can't get any better, what's your thoughts on how things have gone so far, and who do you expect to win this series?
It's actually the series is so crazy. Even the game, every game you watch is crazy. It's like Florida weather. It's raining, it's sunny. It's just crazy because even the last game, when they up 4-0, I told my friends to you can go back, go to sleep because the game is over, and then suddenly it's 4-4 overtime, double overtime. I feel like Vegas has a better opportunity to win because of their offensive power and skills. I think, but you never know with Colorado. I mean, with Carolina, they still have a good team. It's the reason they play. That's the reason they're playing in the finals. But I think Vegas has a little edge.
Yeah, and you've been a part of some teams that have played in the playoffs. I remember you were back on that '99 Penguins team with Martin Straka, Jaromir Jagr. You guys upset the Devils in the first round that year, and you guys had some comeback victories in there. What's it like to play in the playoffs and the intensity and knowing, you guys are just never out of any game?
Well, first of all, it's a different, game. It's every game means a lot. Every shift means a lot. So the focus is, it's very different than the regular season. So I think guys always bring the big, the better game level in playoffs. Everybody has a chance to win the cup. And I think in playoffs and every year, if you make playoffs, you always have a dream to win the cup. So I think everybody lifts up the level of intensity, and they play much harder than during the regular season. Except me, I play hard every game. Even right now in the beer league, I play hard. So some guys play differently, but I always play the same.
Well, that's always great to hear. And you played in an era as well where it seems like everyone played more physical. The defensemen, the forwards, even some of the goalies. Patrick Waugh comes to mind. But nowadays there seems to be more of the speed skill element, especially for defensemen. What do you make of the change in how the role of defensemen has gone, just how the overall game has evolved?
Well, I think game changed a lot because first of all, I think of the salaries. Guys making more money is more investment for the teams into the players. So I think the game got a little bit less hitting because they try to clean up the game with late hits or hits into the head. I think when I play, you finish the check, you don't think about if you're gonna hit somebody in the head or you're gonna miss somebody. You just go and hit the guy. Right now, I think guys, except playoffs, I think the playoffs they go hard. But during the regular season, I think the game is a little different, and of course the skill level is higher because if you have more room to skate and you have to less worry about getting hammered somewhere in the corner or in open ice hit, I think guys relax more.
Yeah, no, and we've seen the hitting actually pick up in the final a little bit. Getting back there for a minute, looked like some of the Taylor Hall took a big shot the other night in the game, and as well as a Carolina defenseman. It seems like the hitting and the physicality have ramped up in these final games, even though coming into this series, a lot of people didn't really expect it.
It is unusual. I saw Taylor Hall getting hit yesterday. I was so scared. Even me as an ex-player and the fan of the game right now, every time it's a big hit, you worry the guy's going to get injured or he's going to be some kind of precautions from the league. So I think when I play, you get hit or you hit guys almost every shift. And I hit the guys. I didn't want to hurt the guys, but I want them to be, to fear me or what about the game. Right now, yeah, it's more hitting, but it's not as nasty as I play in the '90s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, definitely not. And look, you're in a unique position. When you came up in 92, 93 with the Islanders, obviously rookie defenseman and everything. And then when you look at Matthew Schaefer and the job that he did as a rookie defenseman coming into the league this year for the Islanders, what have you seen out of him and compared to the expectations that were placed on him versus what was placed on you back in 92, 93?
Well, I don't think I had any expectations. I just came from the Russian league, And I didn't even, I remember I didn't even expect to, make a lineup. I came, I think October 4th, and we had a game October 6th, a regular season game, and they put me in a lineup. So I had not really understood what was happening. So my first year was like in a big dream. I played every game as a new game. I went to a new city, and I think Schaefer is a little different. It's a different, different age now with social media, with everything. I think guys feel way more pressure now because they can read about themselves, they can watch videos, they can watch news, and follow themselves everywhere. When I came, I didn't read English, I didn't speak English at that time, so I was just like going and playing a game and having fun. So I think you can compare me to Schaefer. Schaefer is a very talented player, and I think is like a Brian Leach caliber player that can move the puck and plays with such a poise.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're seeing that around with all the different defensemen, similar to Schaefer. You have it, obviously in this series, on the back end, you have a steady Eddie on Carolina that is Jacob Slavin, and then you have like a Noah Hannafin type on Vegas, which are big physical defensemen. It feels like, as much as the skilled defensemen are taking over the league, you still want length and you still want physicality. You still want big guys on the back end, because that's almost like how Vegas beat Colorado in the Western Conference Final, and how they're pushing around a little bit Carolina's forwards when they get their forecheck going.
Yeah, it's all about physicality. I think playoffs is about who's going to win a physical game, not about skill. It's about who wants the more and who can take the hit. And I think even watching Marner, playing for Vegas, he didn't play that good during the Maple Leafs era, but now he has confidence and he knows that coaches believe in him and he has the freedom to do things. And I don't think there's a difference, between players playing for one organization and going playing for another organization. So I think NHL hockey, especially in playoffs, are totally different hockey than regular season hockey.
Yeah, look, there's nothing like the NHL playoffs. Everyone always says it's the best playoffs in all sports. But right now, there's something going on, and I know you're in Florida, but there's something going on in New York City. The Knicks are sort of uniting the city in a way that I don't think anyone has seen since the Rangers back in 93, 94. What's your take on, can hockey ever unite a city the way basketball is with New York right now?
Yeah, New York Knicks right here.
Yeah.
Listen, first of all, I was born in 1972. Knicks won a championship in 1973. So it's been a very painful, I've been a Knicks fan since the 90s when I came to New York, and I went to Madison Square Garden and watched my, first game with my dad, I remember, because my dad played basketball in Lithuania. So I always been a Knicks fan, but it was a painful experience because Knicks never won anything. They made the finals in 1999, and we knew that they had no chance. This time, I almost had the same feeling that it's going to be happening. It's going to happen the same thing. But now Knicks fans and New Yorkers have a big hope. Being seeing Jets always lose, Mets never win anything. It's painful to follow the teams when orange, blue and orange, like Islanders. So finally, City has been. Somebody told me that the last time City was so excited, especially Manhattan or New York City, when the Rangers went to the finals. So that's been a long time for the New Yorkers to see the championship team come and play in the Garden.
Yeah, I mean, look, you talk about big cities, you talk about big markets. Obviously, New York Rangers, New York Islanders, different, out on the island. But like you said, they're uniting a city. What do you think? I know, Matt's probably going to ask you a question as well, but I'd like to ask you about the Rangers and their potential future, potentially uniting a city like this for another run coming. Do you see that in their future?
Well, I think every team goes through the rebuild. I think Rangers now are in the stage of rebuilding. Since Lundqvist left, since they made all these playoffs, they always were contenders. And they made it to the finals. I think it's going to take a little time for Rangers to regroup. But hopefully, we'll see another rise of New York Rangers and New York Islanders. Because it's been a long time since Islanders won anything. So hopefully the all three teams, Devils, Islanders, Rangers, going to bring the fans back like they used to be in the 90s. We had a lot of hockey in the early 90s. Rangers, Devils winning cups, Islanders upsetting Pittsburgh Penguins. It was a fun time to be a hockey fan.
You just brought up, the Islanders upsetting the Penguins when the Penguins were going for the three-peat. That was your rookie year. What was it like being on a team that, everyone was pretty much counting out at that point? Because this was not the Dynasty Islanders anymore. You were going up against the wanting to be Dynasty Penguins. And you guys, you knocked them out in what is one of the biggest upsets of the last 30 years.
I think when we beat Capitals and our next opponent was Pittsburgh Penguins, we didn't have any expectations. I don't think none of us believed that we can beat Pittsburgh Penguins. We just wanted to play hard, follow the Al Arbor's instructions, which were just go and play hard. And I remember my friends were making fun of us, say, like, if you guys win one game, we'll buy you a beer, or something like that. So I think we went there relaxed, and we had nothing to lose. And David Wallach's goal, Game 7 overtime goal, changed the history.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most famous calls. Chris Cuthbert going to go into the Hockey Hall of Fame, who was on the call for that from a great pass by Ray Ferraro, by the way, in that game. Unbelievable. The call stands forever. But, you look at it and upsets happen in the playoffs. And, you're down there in Florida. I want to get your thoughts on the Florida Panthers going to bounce back next year, considering all the injuries that they had. Do you think they could add? What do you think they're going to do?
Oh, definitely. I think if they all, I think Barkov is already healthy, playing the World Championships. I think Florida has a pretty good chance going back and competing for the Stanley Cup again. I think the team is built solid. They have a lot of good talent, and they have a lot of veteran players who are very good. So I think a couple more signings this summer, and I think they will be very competitive again as long as they stay healthy. And I think it's impossible to play in the 3 Stanley Cup Finals and not to get injured or not to get healthy. So I think they're going to be well rested, hungry, and maybe go for another cup.
We'll certainly see if the Panthers bounce back like that. The Atlantic Division obviously is a beast right now between Montreal, Buffalo, Tampa, Florida, Boston. It's one of those probably one of the toughest divisions. But Darius, I want to get your thoughts on something here. I'm going to go very off the beaten path with this. You're a Knicks fan. You played hockey. If you weren't a hockey player, what other sport do you think you could have played or would have wanted to play professionally, and what would your position have been?
Well, I think being living most of my life in the United States now, I think I would love to be a football player. Maybe a cornerback that can hit guys on playing defense. You know what I'm saying? I don't. I think that would be fun. But hockey was my calling. I think other sports. I played soccer as a kid. I played basketball. But I think similar to hockey, if I would play and play the style I play in hockey, I think football would be fun for me to play.
Yeah, I mean, everybody.
As long as I don't have to catch the ball.
Well, yeah, if you're cornerback, you might have to do some interception work, but that's okay.
That's fine.
That's fine. You don't have to be a wide receiver. That's okay. That's a great question, by the way, man. I like that. Just bringing it back to the hockey world. I know there's a big debate going on, or topic of conversation as the final start. It's about the playoff format. You kind of lived through both. You lived through that divisional, early Patrick division format, and through the 1 through 8. Is there a better system or better playoff format for the guys to go through?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I don't even know what's going on now. I think it's a divisional playoffs, and then it's a conference final. So
right. But like the old 1 through 8, where they were seeded 1 through 8, teams 1 through 8, or you played with at your division. Seems like everybody feels like the format that we have now just doesn't make for good later rounds. But we're getting a good Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, I think it should be 1 through 8. If you're top seed, you should get the weakest seed in the conference. So I think they should play 1-8, 2-7, and then go down the ladder. I think that would be fair, because you can be playing, one place, 7-6, and then you can play second in the seed. You know what I'm saying? In your own division. So it's I think it should be top 8 teams, and you play you get seeded and you play that way. And if your 2 teams from Atlantic Division makes to the conference finals, it's fine.
Well, thank you for that illuminating answers there, Darius. And thank you so much for joining us here on the Blue Line Blast podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with more Blue Line Blast podcast on the other side of our non-existent sponsor break. Welcome back from our second non-existent sponsor break of the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Matthew Blittner. That's Jim Biringer. That was a great conversation with Darius Kasparaitis, former NHL defenseman, Islanders, Penguins, Colorado, Rangers. I mean, Jim, we might have to make Darius a semi-regular at this point.
It's great
with how he was talking.
I loved it. Great analysis by Darius Kasparaitis. Great to have him on the show. Glad that he could jump on and talk some hockey with us.
Yeah, and just right before watching the Knicks, of course. Huge
Knicks fan, baby. Huge Knicks fan.
Yeah, so one person who I think, Jim, though, might not be a huge fan of a team right now, Dylan Larkin. I don't think he's a fan of the Detroit Red Wings anymore.
Yeah. Can I say something? Things that don't shock me for 1,000, Alex. I think we all saw this one coming.
I think we all saw it coming, but I don't think we saw it coming in the way that it's unfolded. This has been, supposedly everyone in Detroit has been caught off guard by this. And supposedly Larkin has given a 3-team list to Steve Yzerman of where he wants to go. Supposedly the reports are Florida, Minnesota, and Dallas.
What a shot. No, I thought Vegas was on that list too.
Vegas, not Dallas. Sorry, Vegas. Well, he's got his Team USA buddy in Jack Eichel in Vegas. He's got his Team USA buddy Quinn Hughes in Minnesota. He's got his Team USA buddy Matthew Tkachuk in Florida. Jim, I don't know that Vegas has the cap space or the cap logistics to be able to bring in a Dylan Larkin. And I know Vegas always somehow manages, but at some point they're not going to be able to. I don't think Vegas is able to pull that off with their cap situation. I think Florida might be would probably be good. I think the best bet of those three would be Minnesota, because Dylan Larkin on an average team is the number 1 center. Dylan Larkin on a very good team is the number 2 center. And I think if you slot Larkin in as the number 2 center on Minnesota, you're cooking with oil.
Yeah, I think the logical spot is Minnesota. The question is, can they get it with Schrammel and Daniil Yurov and some other pieces to go back? Because let's be honest here, like Dylan Larkin and Steve Yzerman had a rocky situation. There was obviously a chance to trade him in 2023 at the deadline. They didn't do it. They signed him to the 8-year extension. You give him a full no-move clause, at least for the next couple seasons, and then it changes. But you signed him to that $8.7 million deal. Then the tension last year when Detroit doesn't make the playoffs, he calls out Yzerman. Yzerman calls him out. Then they make moves this year. They still don't get in. Larkin's hurt down the stretch the last couple of years. He hasn't produced 5-on-5, but he's got the taste of winning. He understands what it takes to win. He's been around the Team USA locker room, and I'm interested to know what goes on in that chat and what happened in that room, because it feels like it became a recruiting trip. And if it became a recruiting trip, then we're turning it into college athletics and NIL and transfer portal and everything, and then we have to really start looking at contracts again. If guys just want to leave and go play with their buddies, and it doesn't work like that in the National Hockey League. This isn't the NBA, and I get it. You want to go play with Eichel, or you want to go play with Boldy and Faber, and Bill Guerin and Quinn Hughes and all that, and you go down play with Matthew Tkachuk. Look, Florida makes sense. Minnesota is the most logical spot for him because they need a center. Like Joel Eriksson is great, but they don't have anybody else behind him. You add Dylan Larkin to that team, they can compete with Dallas and Colorado inside that division and can get to a Western Conference final. They have the goaltending. They have everything else. The question is, can they make a deal? And for Steve Yzerman, and I was thinking about this today. I don't want to bounce this off you. This is a similar situation. I know everybody brings up the ages and it's different, but it's not. Is Matt Duchene, when he asked for a trade out of Colorado, Joe Sakic was the general manager at the time, and he waited till about the beginning of the season. He waited throughout games to wait for the deal, and he had to get a third team involved. I almost wonder, he wants to go to 3 teams. He may have to expand that roster and that list. But I almost wonder if you're going to have to get a 3-team trade here to make everything work right for not only the player, but for what Steve Yzerman wants.
I can certainly see them needing to bring in a third team if this is only going to be the 3 teams that Larkin's willing to go to. I can see that happening. And I remember actually with the Matt Duchene thing, Colorado was in New York playing the Rangers.
They were playing at, I was about to say, weren't they at Madison Square Garden?
They were playing at Madison Square Garden early in the season. And I actually had the time, I had to go and ask Duchene after the game to talk and, address the trade rumors. Matt Duchene was not very happy with me that day.
No.
Matt Duchene did not like having talking about that after the thing. One of only 2 times I've ever been cursed out by a player in the media.
It happens.
Tony D'Angelo being the other. But yeah, it's one of those things, and I agree with you. You can't let it get to being like NIL and the transfer portal. But at the same time, and I saw Drew Shore, who former NHL player and former NHL player agent, brought this up on social media today. Players for a very long time, pretty much the entire NHL history up until the last couple of years, they were always extremely loyal to their teams, and the teams always held all the cards. With, this new era, younger players, new generation, cap going up, players wanting to play with their buddies a little bit. Yes, you can't let it get like the NBA. You can't let it get like college sports. But it's not the worst thing in the world if players all of a sudden even out the power scale a little bit. Because if forever the teams all held the power, and now the players are slowly taking that. James Myrtle from The Athletic wrote an article as well about it today. Look, Matthew Tkachuk forced his way out of Calgary. And he did it, he didn't do it.
He did it his right way, though. He was an RFA and didn't, right. And he told the team I wasn't signing.
Right. Matthew Tkachuk, Jack Eichel forced his way out of Buffalo because they couldn't agree on the neck surgery thing. Mitch Marner, he said to Toronto, listen, I'm not signing here. And by the way, I'm not letting you trade me to Carolina. So they did the sign and trade to Vegas. Dylan Larkin's obviously a different situation until he's got 4 or 5 more years left on his deal. But starting to see the players, take back a little bit of power. And it's not the worst thing in the world if it stays in check. As long as it doesn't run rampant, it could be a good thing for the sport.
No, and I agree. I think we need more of this in the offseason. I think so. But then if the players really want to take power back, then start signing 4 or 5 year deals. Like that's really taking power back. Like, I'm going to be honest, because teams want to sign you to lock you in 8 years. We saw Matthews, which is no one else has done. Matthews has just signed 4-year deal, 5-year deal. Like, he understands the cap's going up. He understands the money's going to be there every so often. Then don't lock yourself into an 8-year deal. Lock yourself into a 4 or 5-year deal. And then go. McDavid just signed a 2-year deal because he knows his clock is starting to run out in Edmonton. I think that's where the players should be taking their power back. But I agree. Like, they want to make, they want to go play someplace. That's fine. But then we're going to have to start looking at contracts and wording of contracts and how, no trade clauses are, issued. No movement clauses are issued. At some point, you committed for 8 years, and I get the team, Vegas operates on a different stratosphere than everybody else because they just, rotate through players and just want to win. Other players around the league, and I think we're going to start to see rumblings potentially out of Winnipeg with Connor Hellebuck and, Brady Tkachuk out of Ottawa. And I'm not just pointing at the U.S. players playing in Canada. We're now seeing a U.S. player in a hometown market, in a home state. He wanted to be a Red Wing, want to leave because they haven't had success. These guys want to go win. Doesn't matter where they want to go. They want to go win.
Well, I think there's a little bit more to it in Larkin's situation. And again, him and Yzerman have had a very much public falling out. So, I think that Larkin would have wanted to stay in Detroit if it wasn't for the falling out that him and Yzerman had.
And if they made the playoffs, it would help.
Right. So, I think this is one of those situations where you have to take it in a case-by-case basis. I think Brady Tkachuk would want out of Ottawa potentially because, as you said, U.S. player in Canada wants to go win. Ottawa's not really winning. I get all that. Connor Hellebuck, similar thing. I think Larkin, it's no longer a tenable situation between him and Yzerman. If Yzerman got fired, and I'm not advocating for that, but if Steve Yzerman got fired tomorrow, I think there's a very strong chance that Dylan Larkin rescinds his trade request.
I can't disagree with that. I 100% agree with it because I think there is a lot of tension between. We saw what happened with Martin St. Louis and Steve Yzerman down in Tampa. I mean, all over not being picked for the Olympic team, and he ended up being on the Olympic team as a replacement anyway. But he said, I want to go to the Rangers, and that's it. So, but Yzerman's not going to back down from it. He's going to wait for his price and his price point for Dylan Larkin. But we're starting to get the spiciness of the offseason, something I think this sport desperately needs. And talking with some people, I think there needs to be more, we need more of it because it'll keep the spotlight on the sport even when there's other things going on. As we see in the NFL, they just decide to hijack every day. I think the NHL could take a page out of that book and start hijacking other days as well.
Look, and I think we've talked about it here, and I certainly have talked about it in my column, Blittner's Blue Line. You need to restructure the offseason. So, let's say the Stanley Cup final ends June 21st. Okay? Right. Push the draft to July 1st. Push the start of free agency to July 15th, July 20th, somewhere around there. Push, have something happen. Players have to sign by August 15th if they want to get a long-term deal. If they don't sign by August 15th, then, you're capped that you can only sign for half of whatever the maximum is, half of whatever the maximum would be. And then training camp opens, right after Labor Day. You could really build an off season because there'd be all the discussion. Okay, well, the draft, they have it all going. And free agency. Oh, well, oh crap, this guy hasn't signed yet. This guy hasn't signed yet. Oh, it's coming down to the wire. Oh, guess what? This guy didn't sign. Now who's he gonna? And then you really lower the thing. Right now, draft is 5 days after the Stanley Cup final ends.
It depends on when it ends, yeah.
Free agency starts, July 1st, or, just a couple days after the draft. And then everything goes quiet.
This year.
July 3rd until, September, 9th, dead.
Look, I'll say this. July 1st, I'll happen on a Wednesday. Nothing will happen again in the National Hockey League until after the 4th of July weekend in the United States. Because from the 2 through the 4 through 5, going to be dead quiet. Nothing going to happen. Nothing.
Right. So, you space it out.
Yeah, I like it.
It's very important, too, because the league is coming up on it having to renegotiate negotiate new media rights deals.
Mm-hmm.
If they want the money, if they want the human money, says Dan Housen.
Dan Housen, baby, wants the human money.
If they want the money, if they want to grow and, really put MLS in their rear view and really start to challenge MLB and the NBA for, the number 2 and 3 spots, how best can you do that? Well, you got to make sure that there's media coverage for all months of the year. You got to make sure that there's things to always be talked about. You want to stay on ESPN? Okay. Make it with Stephen A. Smith and PK Subban need to be talking hockey on August 5th because, oh crap, this number 2 free agent haven't signed yet. You have to give the network something to talk about. Otherwise, why are they going to pay more money?
No, that's true. You have to keep them talking. You have to keep, and that's what we do here on the Blue Line Blast podcast. We keep you coming back for more, and more will be next week as well. Stanley Cup Finals rolling on. Thank you to Darius Kasparaitis for coming on. It's been Jim Biringer, Matthew Blittner, guys. Blue Line Blast podcast up now. YouTube, check it out. Please like, subscribe, comment, follow along. We'll be back for more. Take care.